OpenAI investigated the recent complaints about Codex usage, and it found 3 problems on its side. Images inside long conversations that had been compacted multiple times were using more resources than intended. Computer history was creating unusually high usage in some of the heaviest workloads, and somehow even the system that generates conversation titles was consuming more usage than it should. OpenAI says fixes have started rolling out. Paid users received a full usage reset, and a dedicated Tiger team is now working on a separate efficiency improvement that could make Codex significantly cheaper to run. Those are the confirmed details. What is not confirmed is the claim that OpenAI secretly cut everybody's weekly limit. We do not have evidence proving that happened, but OpenAI also has not given users enough usage data to independently prove that it did not happen, or to determine exactly how much of their allowance was lost to these internal problems. So I'm not taking OpenAI's side, and I'm not automatically treating every Reddit theory as fact. I want to separate what users reported, what OpenAI admitted, and what is still missing. Because something was wrong. OpenAI has now confirmed that much. The real question is how much of the recent usage drain these problems actually explain. There are 3 different claims getting mixed together in this discussion. First, a lot of users reported that their Codex allowance was disappearing much faster than normal. Some people said the same kind of work that previously used a small part of their weekly limit was suddenly burning a massive chunk of it. That is a user report. It is not proof by itself, but when enough people describe the same change, it deserves a real investigation. Second, OpenAI found actual inefficiencies in Codex that is no longer speculation. OpenAI publicly identified multiple parts of the system that were consuming more usage than intended. Third, some people believe OpenAI secretly reduced the limits for every subscriber. That part has not been proven. Task complexity matters, context size matters, tool use matters, the model matters, long conversations matter, but that explanation cannot be used to dismiss every complaint either. If somebody is using the same model, the same repository, and roughly the same workflow, but suddenly sees a dramatic change in usage, saying maybe your task was harder, is not a satisfying answer. The first confirmed problem involved images inside long codex conversations that had gone through multiple compactions. Compaction is basically what happens when a conversation becomes too large to carry forward in full. Codex takes the important information from that session and condenses it so the agent can keep working without sending the entire history back through the model every time. The problem is that image-heavy sessions were apparently becoming less efficient after repeated compaction. And if you build websites or applications with Codex, this is not some unusual edge case. You give Codex a screenshot, it changes the page, you send another screenshot, the spacing is wrong, it changes the page again, then the button moves somewhere it has absolutely no business being, so you send another screenshot and begin questioning every decision that led you here. That session keeps growing, Codex compacts it, you continue working, it compacts it again. OpenAI says those image-heavy, repeatedly compacted sessions could consume more usage than intended. That is important because the user would have no obvious way to see it happening. There is no warning telling you that a screenshot carried through a long session is now costing more than expected. You only notice later when the percentage meter has dropped faster than it normally does. What OpenAI has not told us is how much extra usage this caused, how many users were affected, or whether the problem explains the most extreme reports. So this is a confirmed issue, but its actual scope is still unclear. The second problem involved computer history. Tibo said OpenAI found high P95 plus usage connected to the feature. P95 refers to the upper end of the usage distribution. In plain English, OpenAI is not saying computer history destroyed everybody's weekly allowance. It is saying some of the heaviest workloads were consuming unusually large amounts. That makes sense in theory.
You can now just show ChatGPT and Codex how you work using computer history so you can talk more naturally with your agent. Once you turn on computer history in the settings of your desktop app on macOS, it takes what you're already doing on your desktop and turns it into memories and a timeline.
For users near the upper end, that additional context apparently became expensive enough for OpenAI to flag it during the investigation. Again, this is a real problem, but we still do not have the numbers. We do not know how many accounts were affected, how much additional usage it created, or whether the same behavior occurred outside those extreme workloads. Without that information, nobody should stretch this finding into a universal explanation for every usage complaint. The third problem is the funniest one. Even if it was probably the smallest, the system that generates titles for Codex conversations was draining a little more usage than intended. Imagine paying $200 a month, carefully watching the last 9% of your weekly allowance, and somewhere in the background, Codex is using extra resources to produce the title. OpenAI did not say the title generator consumed half of anybody's subscription. Tibo described it as a smaller issue. But it shows why the system needs better accounting. One small inefficiency might not matter. Add it to an image-heavy conversation, multiple compactions, computer history, tool calls, sub-agents, and a large repository, and several small costs can start stacking together. From the user's perspective, all of that disappears into one percentage meter. You cannot see which part was useful work and which part was Codex spending extra resources naming the conversation about the work. And this is where I'm not letting OpenAI off the hook. Users cannot see a meaningful per task breakdown of their Codex allowance. You cannot clearly see how much came from fresh input, cached context reasoning, tool calls, subagents, computer history, image processing, compaction, or background features. You see a percentage go down. OpenAI can correctly say that every task is different. But if customers cannot see the variables, that explanation is impossible for them to audit. This is why the discussion turns into two groups yelling past each other. One group says OpenAI secretly nerfed the limits. The other says no, users are just giving Codex harder work. Both sides are trying to explain a meter that provides almost none of the information needed to test either claim. I'm not asking OpenAI to expose private infrastructure or publish trade secrets. I'm asking for enough visibility that a paying customer can answer two simple questions. How much did this task cost and why? Even a basic breakdown would make the situation much easier to understand. Instead, users had to compare screenshots, estimate percentages, and collect anecdotes until the reports became loud enough to trigger an investigation. And that investigation found real problems. So dismissing the original complaints as confusion would be unfair. The users did not know the exact cause, but they were right to notice that something had changed for at least some workflows. Paid users have now received a full Codex usage reset. The original announcement connected that reset with the first group of fixes. As of Sunday, August 23rd, Tibo said the reset had propagated to accounts and those fixes had landed. If your allowance was nearly gone, the reset is obviously useful, but a reset is relief. It is not transparency. It does not tell you which problem affected your account. It does not show how much extra usage was consumed. It does not explain whether your faster drain came from a bug, a more expensive task, a hidden background feature, or some combination of all three. And it does not tell us whether the same problem could happen again. I understand why OpenAI chose a reset. Calculating the exact amount lost by every user would probably be a nightmare. But we should not confuse compensation with an explanation. The reset gives users more room to work right now. The missing usage data is still missing. So here's the most honest conclusion I can give you. Users were right that something real was happening for at least some Codex workflows. OpenAI confirmed inefficient image handling in long sessions with repeated compaction, unusually high usage in some heavy computer history workloads, and unnecessary usage from conversation title generation. OpenAI has shipped initial fixes, reset paid accounts, and assigned a team to the broader efficiency problem, but we do not have proof that OpenAI secretly reduced everybody's weekly allowance. We also do not have enough itemized data to say OpenAI's explanation accounts for every report, especially the most dramatic ones. If OpenAI wants users to trust the meter, it should show them more about what the meter is measuring. Until then, watch your usage across comparable tasks. Pay attention to image-heavy sessions, repeated compaction, computer history, tool use, and subagents. If the new fixes are working, similar jobs should begin consuming less of the allowance. And if OpenAI explains that new efficiency approach or finally gives users a better usage breakdown, I will cover exactly what changed and whether it actually makes a difference. If this helped you understand what has been confirmed, what has not been proven, and what OpenAI still needs to answer, subscribe. As always, have a great rest of your day.